The Miller house sat just beyond the edge of town, where the two-lane road curved into pastureland and the air carried the faint tang of honeysuckle. It wasn't much of a house, just a white clapboard with a wraparound porch and a tin roof that pinged softly when the afternoon sun bore down, but for Aaron and Lily, married less than 3 months, it was more than enough. It was theirs. They had chosen the South deliberately. Aaron, raised in Memphis, had wanted to stay close to the rhythms of summer cicadas, the long evenings that smelled of cut grass, and the slow drawl of neighbors who waved from their porches. Lily, who had grown up farther north, had been seduced by that rhythm too. The idea of building a life in a place where nothing rushed except the thunderstorms that came without warning. On most evenings, when Aaron came home from his job at the hardware store, he found Lily barefoot on the porch swing, sipping sweet tea from a mason jar. She would call out something light, her voice carrying across the yard, and he would feel the weariness slide off his shoulders. "You look like you fought the whole town and lost," she teased one Thursday evening, watching him trudge up the steps. "More like carried it on my back," he answered, dropping a bag of nails and a sack of flour on the table just inside the door. Then he joined her, shoulder brushing against hers as the swing creaked. The intimacy of those small touches was still new. Marriage hadn't dimmed the spark. If anything, it had given their affection a place to settle, like fire finding hearth. Sometimes Lily laughed suddenly in the kitchen, marveling that she could look up and see him there, pouring coffee as though it had always been that way. There was no grand wealth to their days. Mornings were eggs fried in butter, Aaron reading the local paper while Lily hummed to herself, planting herbs in clay pots. Afternoons were errands and chores, the kind of work that stitched two lives together with quiet thread. They planned out rooms they couldn't yet afford to furnish, dreamed aloud of a nursery down the hall, though neither of them said the word baby with any certainty. The town welcomed them with a warmth that felt almost old-fashioned. At church potlucks, Lily's pies disappeared first, and Aaron's willingness to help mend fences or carry lumber made him someone the older men nodded to in approval. Neighbors brought tomatoes, jars of pickles, even a quilt sewn by a woman who said every new marriage needed one. Still, the real core of their happiness was private, not social. At night they lay in bed, the fan circling above them, listening to crickets and distant trains. Aaron would rest his hand lightly on her hip, the way one might hold a promise without gripping too tightly. Lily whispered about her mother's letters, about how strange it was to be someone's wife now, about the fears that crept in even on the best days. Aaron, more silent by nature, only pressed a kiss to her temple and told her it was all right. There were arguments, of course, sharp, silly ones about groceries or the way Aaron sometimes forgot to lock the back door. But their quarrels ended in laughter, Lily throwing a dish towel at him, Aaron catching her wrist mid-gesture and pulling her against him until her resistance melted. They were, by every outward sign, happy. Yet happiness, in its ordinariness, often carries a fragility no one wants to name. Beneath the porch swing's slow rhythm, beneath the sunlit kitchen and the jars of wildflowers Lily kept refilling, there was the quiet assumption that things would always stay this way. One evening in late July, they took a drive through the countryside in Aaron's old pickup. The fields stretched golden under the fading light, and Lily rested her head against his shoulder as he drove with one hand on the wheel, the other draped over her knee. "Feels like the start of forever," she murmured. Aaron smiled, eyes on the road. "That's what I was hoping you'd say." In that moment, with the warm air rushing through the windows and the world opening wide around them, forever did feel possible. Bright, unbroken, and just beginning. It happened on a Wednesday, the kind of day that begins ordinary and ends forever altered. Lily had been running errands, a quick trip to the local market, a stop at the post office to mail a letter to her mother. The sun was bright, the sky an uninterrupted blue that seemed almost cruelly indifferent. Aaron was at the hardware store, stacking cans of paint and adjusting the shelves when the call came. His phone buzzed urgently, an unfamiliar number flashing across the screen. "Mr. Miller? This is Officer Thompson. There's been an accident. Your wife." The words blurred. He didn't hear the rest at first. The world contracted, tightened around his chest. The paint cans teetered. The clipboard he was holding slipped to the floor. By the time he reached the hospital, every step felt like wading through molasses. Nurses guided him through antiseptic corridors, past the waiting room where families whispered prayers, past the vending machines where the hum of electricity seemed obscene. Lily had been in a car accident, the officer explained, a collision on the highway with a delivery truck. She was awake, conscious, but her memory of the past 3 years had been erased. She did not remember Aaron. Not their wedding, not the nights on the porch swing, not even the tiny rituals that had quietly stitched their lives together. When he first saw her, she was lying in a hospital bed, the soft glow of medical monitors painting her face in green and blue. She smiled, but it was a polite, distant smile, the kind you offer to a stranger who asks how you're feeling. "Do I know you?" she asked quietly, eyes searching. Aaron swallowed, voice thick. I'm your husband, Aaron. We just got married." Lily's brow furrowed, as if trying to locate him in some forgotten map of her life. Instead, her lips parted, hesitant. "Aaron?" She shook her head. "No, I don't think I know anyone named Aaron." It was like falling through the floor into an endless, silent pit. Aaron's chest ached, his heart a living fist. He had imagined, over and over, this moment. If ever she woke from unconsciousness, the first words would be relief, recognition, joy. Instead, he faced the cold emptiness of memory lost. Days passed, and with each one, the gulf between them seemed insurmountable. Lily spoke of people she had loved before, men whose names Aaron had never heard, faces he could not picture. She talked about a former boyfriend, James, as though he had been a fixture in her life, as though Aaron were the stranger now intruding into a narrative that had nothing to do with him. Aaron listened, sat by her hospital bed for hours, and bore it all with a quiet desperation. He held her hand when she allowed it, traced the curve of her cheek gently, and never, not once, showed the raw fracture of his soul. "She's remembering him," he told the nurse one night, voice low, almost a whisper. "I don't exist for her. I'm invisible." "You're still here," the nurse said gently. "Sometimes it takes longer than anyone expects. Memory is complicated. Love can help remind her." Aaron clung to that fragment, repeating it like a mantra. Love could help. Love would have to. At home, the recovery was slow. Lily's mind was a maze of gaps and dead ends. She wandered the rooms they had shared, touching picture frames with careful fingers, reading old letters she could not remember writing. Aaron adjusted around her uncertainty, leaving little notes, revisiting favorite meals, recounting stories they had shared, even the mundane ones, like which grocery store aisle held the best peaches, or the way their cat, Muffin, liked to sleep across the kitchen sink in the afternoon. Some days, she laughed, a sharp, foreign sound that made Aaron's chest ache with hope and pain intertwined. Other days, she cried, asking where James had gone, why she could not feel the affection she had once known. He never forced her, never argued. He simply remained, patient and tireless. Every morning he brewed coffee exactly how she liked it, every evening he read to her from novels they had once adored. He reminded her of her favorite songs, recounted jokes they had shared, and waited, always waited, for the flicker of recognition, the small spark that would tell him she remembered not just the world, but him. And in those flickers, in the quiet moments between therapy sessions, hospital visits, and sleepless nights, Aaron began to understand the magnitude of what love truly meant. It wasn't about grand gestures or passionate declarations. It was about constancy in the face of erasure, about holding someone in the present when the past had abandoned them, about enduring the heartache that came with being invisible to the one you love most. For Lily, the days blurred. Faces and names floated past her like ghosts, memories that felt authentic but belonged to someone else entirely. She clutched Aaron's hand sometimes, sensing warmth and stability she could not name. She spoke of James with longing, frustration, even sweetness, and Aaron nodded, never correcting, never breaking. Because he knew, deep in his marrow, that forcing memory would be useless. He could only wait, and hope, and continue to love her with a patience so absolute it might someday reassemble the fragments of her mind, and their life, back into a whole. By the time the first hints of spring crept into the hospital gardens, a subtle shift began. Lily paused mid-sentence, a look of confusion passing over her face as she met Aaron's eyes. "Do I feel like I know you?" she asked softly, almost afraid of the answer. Aaron smiled, swallowing the lump in his throat. "You do, I promise, you do." The road back to memory, to recognition, to the life they had built together, would be long. But Aaron knew one truth with absolute clarity. He would walk every step of it beside her, no matter how invisible he became, no matter how painful the days might be. Because some loves are not undone by memory. Some loves endure. The house on Magnolia Street, where sunlight spilled lazily through the shutters in the late afternoons, felt both familiar and alien to Lily. Every corner whispered promises she could not recall, memories she could not grasp. The sofa where she had napped one Sunday after a heavy lunch looked ordinary, yet Aaron's presence there, the way he reclined with his feet on the ottoman, reading quietly, felt foreign, as though she were intruding on someone else's life. She clutched a photo album one evening, fingers brushing over images of her wedding day. The smiles, the lace of her dress, Aaron's suit pressed neat and comforting, all of it looked like a dream she had not lived. Her lips curved in a practiced smile, polite but hollow. The name, Aaron, sat uncomfortably on her tongue, tasting wrong, unfamiliar. Yet the shadow of James lingered everywhere in her mind. She remembered his laugh, the way his hand fit hers, the warmth of nights spent lying on the beach listening to waves crash. Every memory of him was vivid, tactile, a tapestry she could reach for easily. Aaron, despite the kindness in his eyes and the steady pulse of his heart, remained a stranger who claimed intimacy she could not recall. Aaron noticed the way she recoiled when he approached, the tentative pauses before she let him touch her arm or guide her to the couch. He felt each moment like a sting to his ribs, yet he refused to withdraw. He reminded himself constantly, patience is love, silence is love, consistency is love. Every act, no matter how small, could be a bridge back to her. He began leaving little traces of memory throughout the house. Notes tucked into drawers. "Remember the night we stayed up until 2 a.m. reading aloud?" Postcards pinned to the fridge with anecdotes of small victories, meals they had shared. He baked her favorite banana bread and left it cooling on the counter. He played songs from their wedding playlist softly in the evenings, careful to avoid pressing too hard, careful to let recognition emerge at her pace. Lily resisted, sometimes consciously, sometimes subconsciously. She wandered the house, following the ghosts of familiarity but always retreating when Aaron attempted closeness. "I don't know you," she said once, voice trembling, as she returned a folded towel he had placed neatly in the linen closet. "I can't, it's not me." Aaron nodded, swallowing the ache. "I know," he said gently. "And I'll wait. As long as you need." The community offered their own quiet interventions. Friends sent casseroles, invitations to gatherings, cards filled with encouragement. Yet Lily declined most of them, drawn inward by the siren call of her memories of James. She spoke to him in her mind, whispered questions, imagined answers, constructed conversations that were vivid, consuming. Aaron could only watch, his own grief wrapped tightly around his ribs, his body aching with a desire to anchor her to the present. Therapy sessions became their lifeline. Dr. Whitman, patient and deliberate, guided them through exercises of recall and reflection. They revisited old letters, audio recordings, and video clips. Aaron recounted mundane stories. The first time Lily had laughed at one of his bad jokes, the morning coffee routine they had established, the ritual of tucking Noah's small stuffed bear under Emma's pillow when she spent the night at a friend's house. Sometimes Lily reacted with irritation, snapping at the artificial nature of the memories he offered. "I don't remember any of this," she said, frustration cracking her calm veneer. "It doesn't feel real. It's like someone else's life." Aaron bore it, nodding, swallowing his own bitterness. He had to. Every complaint, every rebuke, every wave of alienation was a part of the process. Love, he realized, was not only in the joyous moments. It was in enduring the nights when the person you loved looked through you like glass, untouched by the years you had shared. Small victories began to appear in fleeting gestures. A laugh at one of Aaron's jokes, a lingering glance, a memory that slipped unbidden. One evening, Lily hummed softly while folding laundry. The song was one she had sung to their children countless times before the accident. Her eyes widened in surprise, then softened. I think I remember this," she whispered. Aaron's throat tightened. He said nothing, only offered his hand, which she accepted, fingers curling over his with the fragile certainty of rediscovery. They celebrated these moments quietly, without fanfare. Each acknowledgement of shared history was a triumph. Yet the past, embodied in the memory of James, still cast a shadow. Lily would ask questions about him, speak of him in wistful tones, occasionally comparing memories of warmth and laughter. Aaron listened, never with jealousy outwardly expressed, only a quiet ache that he buried beneath calm attentiveness. Time itself became a collaborator. The more Lily engaged with the life she had built with Aaron, the more vivid and tangible it became. Cooking together, walking the neighborhood, reading aloud in the evenings, each act a stitch sewing her fractured memory back into the fabric of their shared existence. Aaron's patience, unwavering and steady, proved to be the catalyst. One morning, while she helped him set up the garden, planting tulip bulbs for the first blooms of spring, Lily paused. She looked at his hands, the familiar lines of his palms, the way he laughed as he fumbled with the trowel. A memory surfaced unbidden. A picnic by the river, a shared blanket, a toast of soda cans. Recognition flickered in her eyes, and she blinked rapidly as if trying to capture it before it dissolved. I remember," she said, voice barely audible. "Some of it." Aaron's chest lifted, a mixture of relief and love coursing through him. He did not rush her. He did not demand more. He simply stood beside her, hands in the dirt, heart aligned with hers. The memories returned gradually, like light spilling into a room after a long eclipse. Lily still spoke of James occasionally, still felt the phantom pull of old love. But the present, the life she had chosen with Aaron, the home they had built, the laughter and tears of their early marriage, began to assert itself with greater force. By the time spring was in full bloom, Lily's eyes had regained their warmth when she looked at Aaron. The shadows of the past had not vanished, but they no longer dictated her heart. She could love again fully, freely, grounded in the reality that had been patiently restored by a man who had refused to give up. Aaron, in turn, recognized the profound truth of their journey. Love is endurance, patience, and faith. It is the act of standing steadfast when the other cannot remember, of holding on to a shared life even when it feels like it exists in another dimension. And in that understanding, they found a fragile equilibrium. Lily's hand in his, the soft laughter of the evenings, the shared chores, the quiet conversations, each was a testament to love's resilience, a slow but steady reclaiming of what had been lost. The struggle was not over. Memories are never a straight path. But for the first time since the accident, both Aaron and Lily could imagine a future not dominated by loss, a life where the past's ghosts did not overshadow the present. They had fought through the silence, the alienation, the haunting pull of an old love, and emerged with a shared certainty. Some bonds, once forged, cannot be broken. Not by memory, not by tragedy, not by time itself. By early summer, the rhythm of the house on Magnolia Street had shifted subtly but unmistakably. Mornings no longer carried the tension of strangers cohabiting. The aroma of coffee and toast signaled the beginning of days lived together, not merely in proximity. Lily moved through the space with growing ease, her laughter threading naturally through conversation rather than clinging to borrowed memories. It happened in quiet, ordinary moments. Folding laundry, she would pause at a shirt Aaron had worn on their first anniversary, smiling at the memory that surfaced unbidden. Cooking together, she instinctively handed him ingredients without thinking, reaching for his hand to steady a chopping board as he smiled in acknowledgement. Tiny gestures, once foreign, now felt instinctively theirs. Aaron noticed the change with both relief and wonder. The hospital visits, therapy sessions, patient persistence, all had led to this soft reawakening. The love he had carried alone began to be mirrored, tentatively, in her eyes. No longer a stranger navigating his house, she was the woman he had married, recalling not just events but the depth of their shared life. The inside jokes, the quiet intimacy of late-night talks, the comfort of shared silence. One evening, they sat on the back porch, the golden light of the sunset spilling across the lawn. Lily sipped her iced tea, then set it down, turning to Aaron with an uncharacteristic seriousness. I remember everything now, she said. Her voice quivered, not with fear but with the weight of reconnection. Not just you, us. Our life together, all of it. Aaron reached for her hand, holding it as if afraid to let go. I've been waiting for this, he whispered, eyes glistening. But I never stopped loving you. Her gaze softened, tears threatening but held back by joy. I know. I could feel it, even when I couldn't remember. You never left, not once. Not even when I was lost. It was the first time since the accident that the past no longer threatened to overshadow the present. The pull of James, once a constant, had faded into mere memory, a chapter of her life she could acknowledge without confusion or longing. Aaron was her present, her anchor, her love renewed. As summer deepened, they began to rebuild rituals. Morning coffee together, laughter echoing through the kitchen, quiet evenings on the porch, each act a reinforcement of the life they had nearly lost. Lily returned to work with renewed confidence, sharing with colleagues the subtle joys of domestic life and the gratitude for having love patiently preserved. The true testament to their restored bond came with the news they had long awaited but feared: Lily was pregnant. The moment she told Aaron, his hands trembled with disbelief and overwhelming happiness. They embraced in the kitchen, laughter and tears mingling freely. We did it, he whispered, pressing his forehead to hers. We're really doing it, together. Pregnancy brought new challenges, of course, but these were ordinary trials. Sleepless nights, cravings, doctor visits. Yet each obstacle strengthened their connection. They navigated the journey with humor and patience, their shared history providing a foundation of trust and understanding. Lily marveled at how natural it felt to rely on Aaron, to share every fear and joy, to plan a future once again as a team. Friends and family noticed the change, too. Neighbors remarked on the warmth radiating from the house, the laughter that echoed through the windows, the calm confidence Lily now carried. Aaron and Lily welcomed the attention with quiet pride, content in the knowledge that their love had endured the test of memory and accident, emerging stronger for the trials faced. On a warm August evening, as cicadas hummed in the fading light, they sat together in the nursery, painting the walls soft pastel green. Aaron held Lily's hand as she traced a small heart onto the wall. Our child will grow up knowing love, she said softly. The kind that survives everything. Aaron kissed her forehead, inhaling the scent of her hair, the familiar comfort of the woman who had been his through life's fractures. The kind that never forgets, he added. And when their first child was born, a healthy boy with eyes like his father's and a smile already seeming to inherit his mother's warmth, they held him together, marveling at the perfection of new life. The challenges of the past, the accident, the lost memories, the temptation of old love, faded into a distant echo, a reminder of the resilience of the heart. Life on Magnolia Street was no longer a delicate experiment in patience but a vibrant testament to endurance. The couple, once fractured by circumstance, had rediscovered each other, proving that love, when nurtured with unwavering devotion, can survive even the most profound dislocations of memory and time. Evenings now ended with quiet contentment rather than tension. Aaron and Lily, hand in hand, watched the sun dip below the horizon, their child nestled safely in the nursery. The home was filled with laughter, conversation, and the ordinary, sustaining rhythms of family life, a life once threatened, now reclaimed. And in that reclamation lay the ultimate triumph. The past, acknowledged and honored, no longer threatened the present. The love that had endured had won, quietly, persistently, gloriously. The first morning after Lily's labor was quiet in a way that felt sacred. The hospital room smelled faintly of antiseptic and linen, a sharp contrast to the comforting, familiar aromas of their home on Magnolia Street. Yet, in that starkness, Aaron felt a profound sense of belonging. He watched Lily cradle their newborn, a tiny bundle wrapped in soft white cloth, and realized that the weight of months, the fear, the longing, the fractured memories, had been lifted in a single, fragile instant. Look at him, Lily whispered, her voice a mix of awe and exhaustion. Her hair fell loosely over her shoulders, damp from the gentle sweats of labor and the tears she hadn't noticed falling. She tilted the baby, and Aaron leaned closer, inhaling the scent of his child, the faint tang of baby lotion, the sweet warmth of skin still new to the world. He's perfect, Aaron murmured. But words felt inadequate. They had endured so much, each heartbreak a shadow on the memory of their love, each day apart a quiet erosion of what they thought might never return. And yet here he was, a living testament that love could survive loss, memory, and fear. In the hospital's muted light, they exchanged glances heavy with unspoken gratitude. Neither had to ask for assurance. The child in Lily's arms was proof enough. Lily's eyes met Aaron's, and she smiled. Not the playful, tentative smile of months ago, but a calm, radiant joy that seemed to fill every corner of the sterile room. The past, she said softly, I don't even think about him anymore. James, it's gone. You're the one I love, Aaron. Always you. Aaron squeezed her hand, feeling the pulse of life that had carried them through the darkest days. I never doubted it, he replied. Even when it seemed like you were lost, even when the memories weren't yours, I believed in us. Homecoming was a different kind of triumph. Their house, once quiet and haunted by absence, now hummed with the soft chaos of life. The baby's cries punctuated the air like a new rhythm, and Aaron found himself instinctively reaching to soothe the tiny hands and feet, just as Lily had done. They took turns, sometimes fumbling, sometimes laughing at the mistakes that came with inexperience, but always together. Aaron watched Lily in these early days, marveling at the resilience that had brought her through memory loss and fear. There was a softness in her gestures, a patience in her gaze, as though she had learned to cherish each ordinary moment with a profound intensity. Lily noticed Aaron's quiet observation, catching him with a smile that blended relief and lingering wonder. I never thought, I was scared, she confessed one evening, as she fed the baby in the rocking chair by the window. I didn't know if I'd ever remember us fully. I thought I might lose you for good. Aaron shook his head gently. You never lost me. I stayed, because I knew that love isn't just a feeling. It's staying, even when everything else is uncertain. And you found your way back to me. That's what matters. The days folded into each other, seamless in their simplicity. Laundry became a cooperative dance. Aaron folding shirts, Lily arranging tiny socks, both laughing at the absurdity of matching tiny mittens. Meals were often improvised, but now, laughter accompanied each clumsy attempt at domestic order rather than tension or resentment. They also spoke about the past, but gently, like leafing through a photograph album they didn't wish to close entirely. Lily recounted fragments of memories of James, not with longing, but as a chapter that had closed naturally. Aaron listened, sometimes holding her hand, sometimes simply nodding, giving her space to release the remnants of confusion. Together, they sealed that chapter, ensuring it would no longer shadow their shared present. Friends and family noticed the change. Visits were frequent but welcomed. Aaron's parents cried silently in corners, overwhelmed by the joy of seeing their son's love restored. Lily's friends whispered of the miracle they had witnessed, the return of a marriage that seemed irretrievably broken. And Aaron and Lily, though modest in their pride, allowed themselves to bask in the quiet satisfaction that comes from surviving what should have destroyed them. One night, as the baby slept peacefully in the bassinet, they sat together on the porch, hands intertwined. The sky stretched above them in hues of deep indigo, speckled with stars, and the air carried the faint scent of jasmine from the garden below. We made it, Lily whispered. Her head rested against Aaron's shoulder. All of it, the accident, the memory loss, the fear. We made it through. Aaron kissed her temple gently. Not alone. Together. That's what mattered. There were still small moments of fear, tiny pangs that threatened to unseat the fragile balance. Lily waking up in the night confused, mistaking a sound for a phantom memory. Aaron catching himself bracing for a confrontation that would never come. But each time, they navigated it with patience and trust, choosing love over anxiety, presence over worry. Their first Christmas with the baby was quiet but profound. Snow dusted the garden outside, and inside, a tree glittered with lights, ornaments carefully hung, some from their wedding, some purchased new. They watched as the baby's tiny fingers reached for the sparkling shapes, eyes wide with wonder, and in that gaze, they found the culmination of months of struggle and endurance. Life renewed, love reaffirmed, and family restored. Aaron and Lily also discovered new depths in their own relationship. Conversations that once would have been mundane, the type of shared domestic planning that might have seemed tiresome, now carried warmth and laughter. They found joy in simple routines, bath times, late-night feeds, first smiles, and sleepy coos. And in each repetition, they built a fortress of memory strong enough to withstand any future doubt. One quiet evening, Aaron held the baby in his arms while Lily read a story nearby. He looked at her, heart full, realizing that this, her smile, their son's breath on his chest, the gentle peace of a household alive with love, was a victory far greater than he had imagined. "Promise me something," he said softly, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "What? That no matter what comes, we keep this. This closeness, this trust, this love. We let the past rest where it belongs, and we keep moving forward together." Lily nodded, tears glimmering. "I promise," she said. "It's ours now, all of it," and in that promise there was certainty. Life, with its inevitable unpredictability, no longer threatened to fracture what they had rebuilt. Their love was seasoned, tested, and renewed, not a naive hope, but a deliberate, living commitment. As summer deepened into fall, the house on Magnolia Street buzzed with a quiet, enduring joy. Baby's laughter, the rhythm of shared routines, the comfort of restored intimacy, all created a new normal, richer and more tender than the one they had once known. And for Aaron and Lily, each day became an affirmation that love, sustained by patience, devotion, and faith, could survive the sharpest fractures, the heaviest fears, and emerge whole. By the time their son took his first steps, the house was a symphony of joy and stability. The couple watched together, hearts full, knowing that they had not just survived tragedy, they had transformed it into a foundation for a life richer than they had dared to imagine. The past had rested, the present thrived, and the future, bright and uncertain, was theirs to embrace together.